But then you're also on this album with your Slowspin persona
Right.
on this playlist. हाँ, तो बताएं जरा आप इस गाने के बारे में.
I am very sorry to actual Slowspin for people. I imagine when people mistake us that she gets the worst end of the deal. Where they're like, "Ab ye hai," and then she's like, "No."
She's like, "आप म्यूजिक भी करते हो और कीबोर्ड भी बनाई है आपने, क्या बात है?"
So I am sorry about that. But yes, my namesake is on this. She's great because I think she's actually we discussed Zainab Khwaja last time, right? Which is very kind of classical, but in a modern bent. And this is similar, but very different, right? Like you wouldn't put the two songs next to each other and say, it's same cheese. Right? It's just that she is, in terms of what she's doing, she's taking classical training and kind of repackaging it in a new way, which I think is really essential because most of this, in a broader sense, all of the kind of traditional knowledge of our part of the world has not been packaged in a globally fashionable and trendy way, right? And that really puts things. It kind of extends the colonial leaning of things, where you're like, "ये लोग पीछे रह गए, इनका है कोई," right? Like मतलब इसके दो एग्जांपल ऐसे कि क्रिकेट में एक दफा देख रहा था कि वो बात कर रहे हैं पाकिस्तानी लोग ना कि रिव्यू लेना है कि नहीं लेना, ठीक है? कमेंट्री बॉक्स में उर्दू बोलता नहीं, तो उससे शादाब ने कहा कि भाई मेरा ख्याल है कि लाइन में थी कि पैड को पहले लगी, तुम देखो लाइन में थी कि नहीं, ठीक है? तो सरफराज कहते हैं, हाँ मैंने देखा लाइन में थी, रिव्यू ले लेते हैं. अच्छा, तो कमेंटेटर्स को समझ नहीं आई बात की, उन्होंने कहा बस लगता है इन्होंने तुक्के में ले लिया, पता है इनको कुछ. एंड इट्स जस्ट लाइक, भाई आपको नहीं पता तो इसका ही मतलब नहीं कि वो डफर है, मतलब कुछ है आगे उधर. अच्छा, मेरी दुनिया में हम जब ये सॉफ्टवेयर करते हैं उर्दू वगैरह वाला, ठीक है, एंड इट्स जस्ट बिकॉज वी आर यूजिंग दिस काइंड ऑफ ओल्ड 90s थिंग दैट लाइक हैज बीन पैकेज्ड राइट. So people be like, हाँ ये उर्दू में तो कोई काम ही नहीं होता, like लोगों को थोड़ी को knowledge है. And it's just that all the kind of great Urdu design is like, as Abira puts, like, is documenting on her Instagram, happens in these like truck adda type stores where are building like truck stickers and graphic design and posters for like a part of the world that is not fashionable in the Instagram lens. और फिर आपको लगता है कि वो है ही नहीं skill set, and it's just that the skill set exists in a different mode of communication. And I think classical music and folk music is stuck in that same bucket, which is that the people that are good at it do not speak necessarily the language of communication, of globalized communication in that same way. So what Slowspin is doing is, I think, really good in that way. So this is like classical music fronted, fronting a kind of basically almost like a Western band, right? Like I think there's a harp in there. So it's like Western instrumentation, but it's not fusion music, right? Like it's not ke humko matlab Western rock gaane mein qawwali dal rahe hain. It's not that. It's not a kind of mishmash. It's very much a let's present it in its very kind of sincere, authentic form and find ornamentation which we can draw from wherever. And she's based in the US and is catering as a result of it to a Western audience as well. So she has to make it palatable to those ears, but in a way that is now, I think, very palatable to people from other parts of the world, including South Asia, because there's no, like, it's very kind of authentically provided.
And I think the modern sound, the modern जिसे कहते हैं Western sound, not being so historically linked to the classical or traditional genres meant ke as bache are growing up and they don't have the connection with like classical, semi-classical music that perhaps their parents did. They find it harder because the music they're listening to, pop music in Pakistan, which was all modern instruments and little to no connection to the folk or classical teachings, unke liye it's easier perhaps to have ownership over this sort of packaging, where it's the classical vibe which they resonate with the vocals, and instrumentation bhi unko samajh aa rahi because that's familiar to them. So it's perhaps listening to proper classical music, like Mehdi Hasan ka gaana chala diye or whatever, might be harder for them than accepting कि हाँ जी स्लो स्पिन आई तो हमारे generation की है or something, and we can listen to this